Thank you for being in Reading today, Governor. I just wanted to ask about the future of California. I know that in the election, 8 counties voted red or flipped red. I was wondering what the Democratic Party is hoping to do to unite Californians in 2025 and what some of your goals are for the new year.
Well, I don't want to talk down to people, past people. I believe we all want to be protected, connected, respected. I respect people that supported me, people who don't. Let me give you an example. We were in Colusa County last week with a county supervisor that supported my recall. And we were there talking about our Jobs First program, a Republican that supported my recall. That's an open hand, not a closed fist. That's how we begin to reconcile our differences. Show up, listen. She had a lot to say and was remarkably helpful when we had a similar conversation around the economic and workforce strategies in and around the Colusa region. And I was grateful for her participation. She also participated in the Jobs First process and I think felt heard. And I think that's what it's about, people feeling heard, people feeling like we have their back, that we're not going to turn their back. You know, one of the things I would never do, I won't, just turn my back on the people in the Northstate because they may have voted a different way, for example, as it relates to disaster preparedness. I'm not going to threaten folks up here for fire suppression because they disagree with me on an issue or two. That's the other guy in the White House that's been doing that to Americans that happen to live in the state of California. I don't think that's an approach, personally, for bringing people together. I think quite the opposite. I don't think that's an approach that's very American, candidly. So I think, you know, we'll continue to listen, continue to engage, continue to show respect. And, you know, I think it's the 4th or 5th county that I've been in the last just few weeks that I hope demonstrate an answer to your question, not just rhetorically, but substantive.
Amazing. I have one more question. I know that the SAFETY Act goes into effect in 2025. There's a local school district, the Anderson Unified School District.
And forgive me,
the SAFETY Act.
Which one? I have 10 versions in my head right now.
The SAFETY Act for kids in schools who and the
was this
like
the forced outing?
Yeah,
forced outing. Yeah, or depends. There's 2 versions of the story, but I forgive mine. Yeah, continue, please.
So our local school district, Anderson Union High School District, has vowed not to comply in 2025.
State law.
Will there be any consequences for this?
Well, you have to ask the Attorney General. I mean, if people, I guess they're the right to break the law, but usually there are consequences to breaking the law. But I think that's unfortunate. There's so much misinformation about that effort. Teachers can still talk to parents. There's nothing in the law that suggests teachers cannot engage parents if they're concerned about the safety of a child. If that concern is around their sexual orientation, I find it curious, but to the extent they feel that someone's sexual orientation is a safety issue, then those teachers can continue, as they have been able to continue, to engage parents. What they can't do under the law is fire a teacher for not being a snitch. And I just don't think teachers should be gender police. Humble point of view. And I think this issue's gotten weaponized, and our gay community's been demonized. And I just think, again, a little humility, a little grace, in the spirit of your previous question, that we're all in this together for the grace of God. Go, any of us. You know, a lot of remarkable people happen to be gay and had a journey that was very difficult and confided. Often they can't confide with someone at home, and they confide with a teacher. And a teacher, in many ways, may save their life. And I don't think that teacher should be fired if that teacher doesn't turn in that child. And so that was, I think, the spirit of why the legislature passed that bill and presented that bill to my desk, and one of the reasons I signed it. Thank you.
Hi, George Johnston with the Chico Enterprise Record. Recently, we had the devastating fire at Bidwell Mansion. I was wondering if you had a chance to visit it yet, and has there been any discussions at the state about a possible rebuild funding.
I haven't had a chance to visit it, and let me circle back with you about any state support as it relates to the specifics of the fire. In fact, our team will assemble and give you some of the details. I appreciate the question. Thank you. Thank you.
Steve Gibson, KQMS radio locally. Are any of these programs that you discussed today or any other key programs of your administration jeopardized potentially by your administration not playing ball with some of the more draconian measures promised by the Trump administration?
Yeah, I have to ask the Trump administration. I hope not. You know, again, open hand, not a closed fist. I hope we get along. We got along. President Trump and I got along very well during COVID, notoriously so. You can Google a half dozen press conferences. The president was very explicit about that relationship, very public about it. At the same time we were getting along, he was taking billions of dollars from the state. At the same time we were engaged in lawsuits. My predecessor, not just myself, but you add them together, first term of Donald Trump, there were 122 lawsuits. We didn't initiate those lawsuits. It was a response to assaults on Ronald Reagan's leadership, on Richard Nixon's leadership, going back to the Clean Air Act, the creation of the California Air Resources Board in 1967. Those are just two examples, and I imagine we'll see those again. But look, we're not threatening to withhold fire suppression money from Northstate if you don't do our bidding up here, and I think President Trump has threatened that. We'll see if he follows through on that. I pray he doesn't, as an American.
Specifically, he has proposed dismantling the education department. Would that cause any of these programs to go?
I mean, it would be a wrecking ball to education here in the northern state. 7.9 billion reasons why I say that. That's the impact on California if those dollars aren't redirected in some way, shape, or form. I mean, we were just talking about your new assembly member in Modoc and how difficult it is to get substitute teachers. Also, how prideful. What I love about the Northstate is how prideful people are about their local public schools. There's deep connection. And to see them gutted for pure political purposes would break your heart. Also breaks communities, places, lifestyles, traditions. That's to me what public education is, institutions, particularly communities like this, represent. And so I don't think education should, like in this respect, Department of Education should be a political football. I mentioned, and forgive me for belaboring the point, but I'll make the point again because I think it needs to be made. We got a waiver from that same Department of Education to provide upwards of 4 million people that didn't graduate high school the ability to get financial aid to go to a community college like this. That came from a waiver from the U.S. Department of Education. I'd hate to see that department vandalized and politicized.
Max Tedford from KRCR, ABC 7 here in Reading. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned a lot about a collaboration with local leaders. We received a letter, and I think several agencies did receive a letter from the Calif County supervisors who claimed when you visited them last week that you didn't coordinate with them, that you didn't talk to them, that you cut them out of the conversation. And then talking to supervisors here in Shasta County, they say they weren't aware that you were coming, that you weren't that they didn't know you were going to be here. And so, is there any truth to these claims? Have you tried to talk to these counties? Have you tried to talk to these local leaders?
Well, I think I would encourage, with respect to the Calusa example, that those supervisors talk to their colleague, a member of the Board of Supervisors, who was with us at the convening, who was among many that were invited to the convening. And as I say, she supported a recall. So no, that lacks any merit on that basis. As it relates to folks up here, we had representatives that couldn't make it, that we reached out to here. And this was a process, again, that was a community-led process, a bottom-up, inclusive process. State was hands-off in terms of the final product. I came up here to receive the product, to highlight its priorities, talk about how Northstate is a big part of our larger vision in the state of California, and how we'll be back in January with $120 million of grants. And I hope they focus more on that than public letters to members of the press just to impress upon you a stale political point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we thank you, all of you, for being out here today. Thank you, guys.